you all doing today? My name is Justine Rogers, and I am the gifted resource teacher for Southern Boone R1 in Ashland, Missouri. We're a K-12 district in the middle of the state, halfway between Columbia and Jefferson City, and I am the golden only for our district. I am the only the only gifted person for our whole district. So I serve 2 through 8. Grades 2 through 8 with a pull-out model, and then for K1 I do a push-in enrichment in a normal year. This is not a normal year, so I'm not actually going into classrooms this year. And then high school I work with an office hours model. I go in and have office hours with the students at least once a month. Again, not a normal year. I'm not allowed to go into the building this year because I don't have a class there. So it's a strange world for all of us. So I am working with some new technology today. This is my 4th go around trying to get this presentation recorded, and so hopefully this technology is going to work for us, and hopefully I can help you with some ideas that you can use in your own classrooms, because to me that's always the big benefit for these GAM conference sessions, is that we can find things that we can use in our own rooms, in our own lives and classes. So our work today is centered on the idea of student travel and connecting to the world. And student travel is something that's absolutely amazing and wonderful for students and for teachers, but it's not always within the purview of the budgets that students have, that families have, that teachers adapt, create, do whatever you do with this information to make it work for you. I'm always willing to share everything. Please just drop me an email and I will share all links with you, including the PowerPoint. Everything is hyperlinked in this PowerPoint, and I will give you access to anything you want. All I ask is that you make a copy before you make any changes, so that you're not making changes to my originals. So let's go ahead and get started here with Connect to the World, Travel Virtually. I figured out awkward silence. That would be a point where if we were at a regular conference, I would have said, please have some of the candy on the table. How's the conference going for you? Like your motel room? Did you eat those biscuits and gravy? Anyway, I have a video that I showed to my students at the beginning to talk about why to travel. Why do we want to travel? Why are we not happy in our small town and in our lives? And so I want to show this little video. Hopefully it will work for us, and I can get for it to come up. Nope. That was it. Wait, so here's, there it is. Okay, let's not talk loud. It may work if we do. It didn't talk loud. It didn't work. No. It has music. Obviously, that's not working. Look at the pretty pictures. Exciting music in the background. It's a video. All of these exciting things that student travel can give to doing student travel. My first trip, I decided that I wanted to go see a myself, and I talked to my best friend who's a teacher, and I said, well, we want to do this, and we both decided that we wanted to do it. However, we didn't know how we were going to do it. And then I only opened one of the packages that keeps coming in my mailbox from student travel companies and started looking into it a little bit. And from there, decided to take a leap and jump into an actual student tour. And we ended up taking 37 people, the two of us in that, to New York City for 5 days and 4 nights. We saw 2 shows, we saw every tourist thing in New York that we could see. We had an acting workshop with an actual professional actor. We had a one-on-one session with a Broadway actor. She was in the chorus of Funny Girl, and she was from Kansas City, so she was excited to meet another Missouri group. And we just had an amazing time, and I saw the kids grow and change and become more adult and soak in those experiences more than any other experience I've ever had as a teacher in such a compact amount of time. It was an amazing amount of growth and learning and enrichment that in those 5 days. Memories, of course, that'll last a lifetime. As trite as that sounds, it really was an amazing experience for them all. So before I start my virtual vacation project with my 5th graders every year, we watch this little tiny video, and then we go through a little PowerPoint Google vision project. It is. We'll go back a slide and present a little video watch on perspectives on the. So when we remember when we travel, the experience is king. It can be scary going to a new place, but there are lessons that we learn along the way, and nothing can actually substitute for the experience. And even though we're traveling virtually, maybe the idea that you can do it virtually will give you the courage to try it in person someday. We want to appreciate the things that we can't see. There are experiences involved in travel that you can't get just from looking on a website. And again, I know that seems a little bit anthemic because that's what we're doing, but is that we're whetting their appetites for travel and for these new experiences and giving them the tools that they need to be confident. There's no end to the adventures that we can have if we only seek them with our eyes open. And the world changes every 100. Took those kids to New York City, and at the beginning, they looked like this the whole time there. We're looking at the tops of the skyscrapers, and they were shocked at the different skin tone. We live in a small town in Missouri, so diversity is not real strong here. And the languages that they just heard, and the smells, and the foods, and the experiences. And, we walked down one street, and they saw churches of 7 different religions. They had, there was a mosque, and there was a temple, and they were like, wow, there's 7 different churches on our main street too, but there's 7 different denominations, Baptists. And so that experience for them was just really eye-opening, that the world is not all-inclusive in our small town, which is, a wonderful experience for them to have. We don't appreciate what we have until we see what else is out there. And we can totally enrich our experience. And of course, as gifted teachers, we want to enrich our kids with opportunity that we can give them. And so if we can give them the gift of travel, of the changes that come just as a result of, no one travels without changing as a human being, just because our perspective on things changes. And our little presentation here, so we'll come then, and you just go to the video. So the virtual vacation project is the project I do every year with my 5th graders. It has become a big old thing, and I have to give all the credit in the world to the whiz, Meredith Wisniewski. I was a new gifted teacher several years ago. I went to my first GAM conference, and she presented on the virtual vacation project that she does with her kids. And it was amazing, and it was eye-opening, and I thought, I can do this. Finally, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to come up with curriculum from scratch. I can use this with students. And so that's why I hope that you guys can use this as well. But all credit goes to Meredith, who was first in at the time, Meredith Wisniewski. This is her project, and I have modified it, changed it. So I'm going to walk you through the actual Google document that I gave to the kids for the project. Basically, I want to tell you that after the research aspect of all of this, the kids have, there's 4 components to their presentations. First, there's an actual presentation, a Google Slides presentation that they will give to their families. We have a breakfast, a virtual vacations breakfast, and they all take or they all bring in food in the countries that they have visited, and then they give their presentations, and then they each create a souvenir from their trip, and then they create a scrapbook page, and then we have an actual scrapbook. So this is the is that they're choosing a country, a city, and the United States that every and that was the first time I gave this. I was just emailing this packet to them. Google Classroom, we are this first year classroom with elementary kiddos. There's an option in Google Classroom that lets you make a copy for each student individually. It makes life a lot easier. So here's the why travel presentation I did with you. I show it to them too, and I ask them to do a little thinking about it. What would you hope to gain for opportunity places? Then I ask them to go to a world map, look for place you might consider visiting. Challenge them to go outside of North America. It's far more likely as just Westerners that we're going to travel within North America than it is that we will travel abroad. That's just statistically the way it is. It's a little bit intimidating, especially for small town folk, to for some families to just leave the insularity of the small town and go to the big city. This is great. Kansas City's great, but boy, there are a lot of parents who would not drop their kids in the middle of New York for a week or Washington D.C. So here is a world map for them to look at, and then we start going into the planning stage. Independently, with them, talking through it. We talk about what would you feel like you would need to do to really feel like you'd experienced being in a place, and mark it on a world map. We have sticky notes. I have a laminated world map, and they have to mark where it is that they're going to go, and then they have to plan what you can do before you take a trip. But you have to pack. But do you need to change your money into different conversion, or can you use a credit card, or can you use U.S. dollars where you're going? Do you need to find someone to take care of your animals? What kind of pack do you want? And then we get Google Earth to explore the cities, see if we can find any information about cities on Google Earth, famous buildings, and then we do a little bit of research into the city, what to research, what we found out the results, and then want them also to practice citing their sources. At this point in time with fifth graders, I have them copy and paste. I don't have them do like a full MLA bibliographic citation, because that would be a whole nother lesson. You absolutely could do that, and it wouldn't hurt them at all. I just, for the sake of time, just want them at least to have a source that they can go back to, so that we finish one day and they come back the next day, that they know where they can pick up. So the things that I'm asking them to look for is, how far is it from where you live? When would they speak? What's the weather like when you're planning to go there? They want to go to Australia. I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to Australia. In the summertime, I'm like, oh, I don't think you want to go to Australia in summer. It's a little bit cold there. And so then we talk about the equator. And they know it, but they don't necessarily always apply knowledge, and so they have to think about it a little. So all of these things walk through, and then we go into actual vacation planning, their budget calculation. So they get a $6,000 budget, and you can do any amount that you want. It's not real money. So they can have $20,000 if you want to. But that's to spend on the entire trip. That includes their transportation, lodging, food, sightseeing, so on and so forth. And they have to actually do the math. So they start. So for their transportation, they have to figure out how to get there. They're going to take a plane. Then they need to go and figure out how much flights are to round-trip flight. How are they going to get around while they're there? Are there bus passes? Can they take a Euro rail? Are they going to rent a bicycle? How are they going to Uber? Whatever, and budget for that. And so we talk about, what does budgeting mean, and what does it look like? And if you budget $100 for food, what do you do if you don't have enough for that day, and so on and so forth? And so when we go through the budget, for lodging, they have to research hotels or motels in that area. They have to find one that they want to stay at, and of course they're all about I want the one with the spa and blah blah blah, and figure out how much that costs, and take that out of their budget as well. Souvenirs, so on and so forth. And then what is their final balance? I always tell them to spend the money. Some of them are natural cheap and they're like, I'm just gonna buy a jar of peanut butter and some bread and put it in my suitcase, and then that's how I'm gonna eat when I'm there. I'm like, you're go back and stand, eat some food if you're gonna be there, or something along those lines. Spend the money. You know, it's not even money. So let's have experiences that we're. I did find out, however, I didn't believe the kiddo. You can go to Iceland for a week and do pretty much everything for right around $2,000, and that's staying at some good hotels. Iceland is your place to go right now. It is the cheap vacation destination for the world. So I walk them through step by step transportation and lodge, how we're going to get there, where are you going, when are you coming back. I think they can do an Uber or a taxi. We through again seeing in culture, that they are, and you have for food, and I want them to actually find restaurants and find the menus of restaurants they'd like to eat in, and what do they want to eat, how much it's going to cost them. And I don't need them to do a detailed meal by meal budget, but I want them to know that if they're going to eat lobster every night because they're Seychelles, how much is it cost versus going to eat lobster every night because they're in Moscow, Russia. So have a decent idea of budgeting, because it's something that they need to start learning how to do. And then pictures. What pictures do they want to take? What souvenirs do they want to bring? The presentation. So that's the research. We usually spend 2 weeks or so on the research portion. I see my kids, in this case, I see my kids 45 minutes, 4 days a week. This year, I see my fifth graders once a week for 150 minutes. So I will hope that in 2 weeks is enough for them to get all of this research done. But we have to take frequent brain breaks when I have 4 fifth grade boys who are bouncing off walls. I don't want them sitting on a Chromebook doing research for 2.5 hours. So we may stretch that out into 3 weeks or so. So our presentation has 3 parts: the presentation itself, the souvenir from the trip, and the scrapbook page for our virtual vacation scrapbook. We present all of these things at our virtual vacation breakfast. That's obviously not going to happen this year due to COVID, but what we do is have a public breakfast, and they can choose a typical breakfast food, and it's not that it has to be authentic. For example, when I had a kiddo go to Iceland, he was worried because he couldn't find Icelandic yogurt at the store. They eat a special kind of goat's milk yogurt in Iceland. And I said, just bring some yogurt. It's fine. You don't want to get last 2 years ago, I had a girl who went to make Japanese puffy pancakes, and she was going to bring in a grill. She was going to grill pancakes right there. And I said, sweetie, I get that you've done that, and I want you really to have that authentic experience. Make those puffy pancakes some morning on a Saturday and take pictures and bring in and show us all how awesome they are. But for this, let's just bring in some Eggos. Bring in those little, don't make it hard on you, and don't make it hard on mom, because she does the extra headache. So all out. We've had authentic tres leches from Chile before. We've had some really amazing foods. We had Vegemite last year. That was exciting stuff. One of the kids ate it and then quickly went and threw it up. So I think I might have Vegemite in place. Anyway, for the presentation, they're Google Slides. I tell them they could do a poster or a puppet show. I of course, wanting that differentiation. I've never had a student not do Google Slides. Fifth graders, Google Slides is where it is for them. They love the Google Slides because they can make animations and they can make, fire come out of it and things like that. So I always go with the Google Slides, but I still always want to keep the option in case I get one of those really, really super gifted kids who wants to do a fun play or something like that. But what I want them to do is show and tell, basically. Pictures, stories, food should be included in the presentation to talk about, here's where I went. So this is where they're showcasing their research. Here are the things that I saw while I was there. And they grab those pictures, them to open up a Google Slides presentation while they're doing their research. And then as they find the hotel that they think they're going to stay at, grab some pictures and throw those into the Google Slides. And then you can do your slide presentation as you're doing research. So you're not having to wait until the end. It's not like you have to do this whole and go back and recreate everything, work smarter and harder. For the souvenir, I want to create a souvenir that represents a culture or location that they visit, something that would kind of an authentic souvenir from this. For example, I had a young lady who traveled to London last year for vacation, and she got out air dry clay, and she made a mug and painted it with a rose pattern that would be a common rose pattern that would be found on a teacup that you would buy in England. I want them to make this souvenir. I really don't want them to bring in something from home, if possible, because I want to have them have that creativity outlet. Now, of course, am not like dreaming about it. I had a little girl whose grandma went to Russia and brought her back Russian nesting dolls, and so she was so fascinated by Russia because grandma had gone there, and she wanted to bring her Russian nesting dolls in a souvenir. And of course, I said absolutely, because that was cool. But they display their souvenir during their presentation. And the scrapbook page, they get a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper, and we basically just print out pictures on the color printer. So both sides of the scrapbook paper, and they have basically 2 pages blocks, and they copy and paste pictures there, and it's the sizes on those, and then we just print those out, and then we cut them, and they go ahead and paste those right onto the scrapbook page. And I have the scrapbook they can look at all times of the previous years. In fact, I made a video for guys. I don't think it's going to show if this PowerPoint presentation that I'm going over today. I actually have the link to the YouTube video for the PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint YouTube video of scrapbooks. We won't take the time to watch this since it doesn't appear that we have sound, but I put some in there with the kiddos to show you their presentation so you can see. A lot of them do a day-by-day itinerary. Here's what happened the first day, the second day, the third day. Some of them just do like my budget slide. Here's my food slide. Here's my lodging slide. And either way, fine. You're sharing your information. You're sharing your research. So whatever method you have to come up, that works perfectly. This would be the point where I would stop and ask for questions and invite you to go ahead and take some candy off the tables that I put out for you, because if you don't take it, I have to take it home. But we're virtual, so we're just keep on. If you need to pause here and go take a break, this would be a good place to do it. Here's that virtual vacation scrapbook. You can print that out if you'd like to. It's on the tube. Okay, so the next set, welcome back for those who hit the bathroom during the break. It's a virtually guided tour. So we planned a Washington, D.C. 8th grade trip. We take an 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. with every couple of years on the even years, 2020, 2022, 2024. And then we want to get on odd years. So like 21, our plan is to go to Puerto Rico. 2023, we're going to go back to New York for a year. We like to travel. It's cool, and the kids love it, and we've kind of developed this program. However, COVID, so 2020 canceled, or didn't get canceled, postponed it to 2021. And because those kids will now be going into their sophomore year instead of going into their freshman year, a lot of them went ahead and canceled, which I can't blame them. Their choices were to cancel, take a travel, they went ahead and canceled. And now it's looking like my hearty list, 7 of us that are left are going to have to cancel for 21 because we don't know in March of 2021, we'll go during spring break. We wouldn't be able to look at non-travel. It's the world we live in, and it's breaking my heart. And last February, when the world shut down, we had to cancel or reschedule our tour 4 days before we were scheduled to off because we were going to go during spring break. Break was supposed to start on the 20th. That was our flight day, and the 17th was the shutdown. And I was upset. And what can I do? How can I turn the positive? Because we do that. We're teachers. We're like, I'm going to fix this, and I couldn't fix it. But what I could do is maybe take the experience and make it a virtual experience for the kid we're planning to go. And then if you're going to go through all the work to make it virtual, and make it for everyone. And then I thought, well, that's dumb. If you're going to do it, use it in your classroom. So the next project that I'm going to show you came out of the fact that I couldn't go on vacation with my kids, and I wanted to do a virtually guided tour with. So the components of this virtually guided tour were my vision when I started creating, and I'm not finished. Let me put that caveat out there. I'm not done because it's really intensive. Tours themselves are really, really intensive. You are going from the minute you get up in the morning till you midnight at night. The only downtime you have is when you ride from location to location. When you're in a compact place like Washington, D.C., there's no sense in driving. You just walk everywhere. So there's just not very much time at all during the day. And so to turn into a virtual experience, I really had to work with the concept of compression and expansion. An actual tour is incredibly compressed. In 4 days, you see, hours and hours and hours worth of stuff. The agent is there because the kids are there. They're seeing it. It's hard not to listen to a tour guide talk about the World War II Memorial and learn about the World War II when you're standing inside the World War II, and you can see the little old veterans in their honor flights being wheeled around, and you can and you're experiencing it. You're right there. When they're sitting watching the screen, doing it virtually, with it a little bit can't come with it because the engagement just isn't there. So my goal in doing this, and I honestly couldn't tell you whether I have accomplished that goal or not because I haven't used this with students yet. I'm kind of saving it for the knock on wood that we don't, but if we do have to go virtual this year. The idea that I've taken these activities and these places that we would visit on real tour, and I've expanded them. The kids take a virtual tour, they will look around it, they'll read about it, they'll learn about it, and then they'll answer a question or two to show that they've understood what they have absorbed. And so I am utilizing all sorts of virtual tours that I found, YouTube videos, National Park Service websites, so on and so forth. And so I've just gone out and gathered and put it all in one place for the kids. So the idea is that this is a day-by-day experience that integrates learning activities into a tour that's all in one place for students. That a real tour is a compressed experience. This is an expanded PowerPoint or Google slide. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I've got and we're doing it that it was a frustrating place when I made this. And so I'm just going to, the goal was see something, answer questions. See something, answer questions. But the questions, I wanted them to be interactive and the experience interactive and engaging. There we go. All right, so here's the itinerary, and I hyperlinked each of the itinerary. Each of these are hyperlinked to the slide that they go to because we're at 24 slides and we're only on day 1. And so if a kid through in class, for example, or had to work an hour at home, they might only get 1, 2, and 3, and would want to come back and do 4 another time. And so it's just hyperlinked, so they don't have to work their way through the whole slides. So the departure, these are actual pictures, by the way, of our tour that we took in 2018. I had to count even years. Sorry, it's been a long year already. We fly Southwest, and we flew from Kansas City to Washington National. We have the benefit of being able to fly out of either Kansas City or St. Louis. It's equidistant for both of us, but Kansas City is cheaper, so that's who fly through. We flew international. We could fly to Dulles, but we flew international again. It was cheaper. Southwest flies international, and then we left at 8:35 in the morning. So there's all of us at the airport at 6:30 in the morning, and we get there at 11:50. And then I have this. Please watch the airplane safety video. We had the coolest experience when we went to New York. Over half of the kids that went to New York have never flown before, and we also flew Southwest then. And we got the funny flight attendant, and I don't know if you've ever seen her. It's just a stand-up comedy routine, and it's hilarious. So I went when I found one of them, and I included it to kind of break the ice and let the kids see it, that it's good. Some of these kids have never flown before, and so I wanted them to have somewhat of a experience that they would if they ever do fly. Our question then is, I would like to calculate the total flight time. Don't forget we gain an hour going from Missouri to the East Coast. If we leave at 8:35 in the morning, we arrive at 11:50, which is 10:50 our time, then it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. They're going to say, well, I can't do that. And yes, you can. Just think about it. And then given that the mileage between two airports is 949 average speed of our flight. So there's your first interactive question. So we arrive in D.C. and lunch. And we go right into D.C. and have lunch at the base of the Washington Monument, which is on Constitution Avenue. And it's full of food trucks over the lunch hour. And so I put in Yelp reviews to the food trucks, and I want them to decide what they might like to eat. I want them to see that you can literally get shawarma out of a truck. They've only ever heard of shawarma because of the Avengers, or falafel, or any of those, really cool foods that they're not going to get in the middle of Ashland, Missouri. So I wanted them to take a look at it and plan on spending around $15. And so I want them to look at the menus and decide what they're going to have for lunch. That's the next question. So after that, we are sitting at the base of the Washington Monument, so it's the perfect time for us to look out around it. It's closed right now for repairs. It's closed now because of it, but when we were there in 2018, it was closed for repairs. But here are a couple of YouTube videos that are tours of the Washington Monument, so they can actually go in and see it. And then another interactive question, another math one. Sometimes the area and perimeter questions lend themselves to math. So knowing the Washington Monument is a method could you use to figure the area of the outside of the monument in square feet? And then they're going to have to do a little outside research. They're going to have to Google what are the dimensions of the Washington Monument. And then we walk over to the Stone Museum of Natural History. It's all within walking distance. 18,000 steps our first day in Washington, D.C. when I went the last time. It was, my feet hurt pretty bad. But here are a couple of virtual tours. One's a YouTube one, and then I wanted to point out this first one up here. This was actually provided to me by a travel company that I don't even use. They were fantastic. She has been trying to convince me to take a tour with company because they're rival companies, but again, their goal is to get students traveling. But she's like, and I was telling her kind of what was going on and by putting together this virtual tour. She's like, oh, let me send you some stuff. And she sent me this. This was fantastic. So thanks to Nina at World Strides for doing that for me. So then the question 4 is, what's your favorite exhibit and why? There's a brief question, why, and then copy and paste a picture here along with your reflection. And then we go to supper at Union Station. Here's a website about the history of Union Station. And then we go on our nighttime monument tour. So we visit some of these monuments and these are all, again, pictures that we took at the monuments. And then some of the fun things, if you've gone to the World War II monument, it's beautiful, and every state has a pillar, and you have this beautiful view of the Washington Monument, and the sun's going down in the fountains, and there was the Eastern Front, and there was the Western Front, and so you have Japan on one side, and it's the symbolism is amazing. So if you want to teach symbolism, this is your place to do it. But the fun thing that the tour guide points out is that talks about the history of Kilroy. The cartoon Kilroy was here, and there are 2 Kilroys that are at the Washington Monument. So of course the kids on the tour wanted to find Kilroy, and you can find them if you look hard enough and run and ask people who've been there. So you can yourself in Washington for the World War II and say, did you find Kilroy? So our interactive question is, who is Kilroy and how many times does he appear at the moment? Then we go to the monument. You can see the sun was going down. It was getting darker. This is actually a picture from the World War II memorial. No, this is from the Lincoln Memorial. There's the World War II memorial in the back with the fountain. But this is the mall reflecting pool. I want to read a little bit about the history of it, and then the question is, other than the Vietnam War protests and Forrest Gump, what are some of the famous events that happened at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool? Most of them usually come up without even having to look it up. This is where the I Have a Dream speech took place. And then the next one was, why was the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool in 2017? Fun fact, a bacteria developed that was killing all of the ducks in the pool. So they trained it, scrubbed it to get rid of the bacteria that was in the ducks. And then we go to the Lincoln Memorial, and they can look at the National Park website for it. I may add some YouTube videos of it. It's pretty impressive. I'd like to maybe find some information about inside of it. A lot of people don't actually go into the memorial though, because it's a lot of steps to climb up there. And like I said, we were nearing 18,000 for the day at this point in time. And it was dark. There were thousands of people there. And then the last stop on the monuments tour was the Korean War Veterans Memorial, which is my favorite of all of the memorials. It's my favorite thing by far in Washington, D.C. So I put in a lot of stuff for them to look at about it. And then I really wanted them to think about it and reflect and say, many visitors say this is their favorite. Which part is the most striking? Because it's actually a monument in 4 parts. There's a wall of faces, there are statues of the soldiers, there's a reflecting pool. And then there is a casualties of war section where they look at they have the actual numbers of the people who died during that time. So that's day 1, almost, because we still, I wanted them to make a photo album. Copy and paste pictures of the photos of the monuments you visited at night. So they may have to search a little bit farther to go to find those pictures at night. And then we go back to the motel. This is the actual motel that we stayed at, so I wanted them to look it up and a picture of what it would be like. Just try to get that feeling of, I'm on tour and this is a motel I'm going to stay at. Ooh, that's really so that's day 1. And then I have the day 2 itinerary. We're going to go in the morning to Arlington and go to the changing of the guard and Kennedy grave sites. And then we're going to swing over to the Marine Corps War Memorial. That's in Pentagon City. You could add the Pentagon. It's a virtual tour. I can add whatever I want to. I will tell you on a regular tour they won't, because it takes too much time and nobody goes to where they can get into it, and it's a fortress. But you can see it from the distance, which is what we do. The Marine Corps War Memorial is the bronze statue of the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. It's the coolest thing. It is an optical illusion, and the way it's built like on a hill, and as you walk around the hill and look back at it, the optical illusion looks like the flag is raising. And so I want to find some way to include, like someone did a time-lapse video or something as I walked around it, so I can find that, so I can bring that into interaction. A lot of people, when they go to Washington, D.C., it's like, oh, look at that, look at that, that's cool. But if you have a tour guide and you have someone who's been there before, they can make it come alive. And so those are the types of experiences that I wanted to include. Not just there's a monument. Oh, there's another monument. Oh, yeah, there's a dude who's made out of stone. I wanted to hear the history to learn. And again, so it's the enrichment and the engagement and learning. So those are the types of experiences that I hope to share with them virtually that they're going to get if they travel real. Then we go to Mount Vernon in Alexandria. And then that night we do an Alexandria ghost tour, which is pretty hysterically funny. There's a horse that was killed in a stable fire where Washington was. And late at night, if the moon is full, you can hear galloping footsteps. I promise. All right, then we go to day 3. That's our town. We go to the Capitol. We do the Visitor Center tour, the U.S. Supreme Court, Library of Congress, the National Archives. We'll take a look at the documents, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. And I want to talk about things like, if you've ever been to the National Archives, there are thousands of people waiting to get in line, and they let 100 at a time. And everybody goes and looks at them, and then they move out to the side, and then they let in another 100 people at a time. And many sweet, well-behaved Midwestern children never got to see it because they were not pushed and rude. They waited their turn, and by the time they did their turn, our 5 minutes to view everything is over. And so those are the little things that I want them to know. Then we'll go to the Holocaust Museum. We'll see David's exhibit. And then as sun goes down, we'll see the tidal basin and do the Jefferson Memorial and the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Then day 4, the itinerary, the plan is to go to the White House for a photo stop. I want them to understand that just as we're in Washington, D.C., we don't get to do everything. We're not going into the White House. We're going to go to a photo stop in front of the White House, and they can see where the snipers are on top of the White House. Maybe we're lucky the presidential motorcade, well, it did when we were there. It was exciting stuff. And then we'll go spend some time at the wall. And we had a main tour guide when we went to D.C., and she made the wall come alive in a way that was amazing. She had actually taken the time to research soldiers from our area who had died during the Vietnam. And she had the kids write thank you notes, the family members of the service members who died in Vietnam. And then she showed them how to use the kiosk to find where the names were on the wall. And they found the names, and then they placed the thank yous in front of the names. And I saw 8th grade boys tearing up. And of course, I was tearing up watching it. And one of them finally said, I guess I didn't realize that they weren't much older than I was. This is a 14-year-old kid saying, in 4 years, that could be me instead of college. And so just that, again, boom, the whole trip is worth it in a kid, something like that. I can't give that them in the we are right now, but maybe virtually, if I can get that connection with them, with the place, one, they'll remember it and it'll mean more to them, so that it's not just lines in a textbook, and two, maybe they'll go someday in person and have that experience for real. We go to the Udvar Center. That is NASA's Smithsonian, which is actually at Dulles, and so we're going to fly out, again, it's my tour, I can do what I want. We're going to fly out of Dulles, because Udvar Hazy is right next to Dulles, and then we're going to fly home on day 4. You can change your itinerary to make it anything you want to. You can go place you want to. When we actually did this tour for real, it was a 5-day tour, and one of our 5 days was at Gettysburg. We got out to Gettysburg, did the whole Gettysburg thing, and then came back. I could have spent weeks at Gettysburg. It was amazing historical place, cool tour guides in the world. But this is it. This is where I am. Like work in progress. I hope it's something that maybe you think, hey, that's kind of cool. I'd like to try that. And if not, awesome too. If you're interested in, let me get out of this. Here we go. If you're interested in traveling, also I wanted to show you this Google Expeditions. Google Expeditions is an app that allows people to take over 900 reality tours, including everything in Washington, D.C., the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Memorial, everything. You your phone, and they can actually go and see the 360 degrees, 3D, cool things. You also can do a group version of it. It has called Expeditions Kit. You have a tablet or a phone for the guide, and then you have a device and VR goggle traveler, and then you have to have a router because it can't work off a Wi-Fi network. It has to have its own router. I looked up kits. You can buy kits by Amazon. A kit for 10 people was almost $4,000. So not something that I will probably be able to ever explore through the however, it's something that I can recommend to the kids. It can be used by individuals without the group aspect. You can just have them, if they have phones, download Google Expeditions. It's a free Google app, and they can just do it. So you can, if you're at a point, we tried to download on a Chrome, but not work. It has to be a tablet or a phone to do that. So it's also the technology lady. We asked her about downloading it on our Chromebooks, and she said it's not FERPA compliant. So you can't use it necessarily as a school because it records the kids' data, which is against FERPA. But if kids want to use it on their own, it's something or you want to use it, go for it. So if you want to travel for real, just a quick plug. There are 3 main travel companies. EF is Education First, World Strides, and Explorica. They're all very similar in itineraries and the places they go. Costs, they're pretty similar, and they're all pretty similar in their numbers of, how many of teachers can go free if they have as many students sign up. I've worked with EF. I've traveled with EF. I've worked with World Strides. I'm probably travel with Strides at some point in time. And I wanted to also shout out to Explorica. They're so dedicated in sending me lots and lots of paperwork. But because I'm happy with my first 2, I just haven't explored Explorica. I haven't been happy enough to think about trading it. If you're interested in travel for real, starting your own program at your school, you don't pay to go as long as you get kids to go. However, there is the issue that if say a pandemic comes along and you have paid to take a trip and it gets canceled 4 days before, the parents may look at you and say, why did you keep this from happening, rather than looking at the travel company. And it's okay, you get over it. It leaves you a little bit salty about student travel. So I'm looking to bring my joy back, and as soon as it's safe to travel again, I will have kid planes, and we will visit the world as much as we can. And until that time, we'll travel virtually, and after that time, because virtual travel is going to open windows for kids who can't do it for real. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm so thankful that you spent time with me today. And my email address, phone number is here. I am happy, as always, to share any resource that I have with you and answer any questions you have. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your virtual conference, and take care of yourselves. Be safe, be well, be happy.